The room sings like a broken kettle. Sprinklers scream overhead, stitching steam into the air until the glass in the observations slit fogs from the inside out. The cuffs on my wrists hum a warning. Heat-conductive alloy, hospital silver, etched, with the kind of runes that say, "We don't trust you, but we want you alive." I breathe in scorched metal, my own smoke, and the salt taste of panic riding up my tongue. Containment C. A speaker crackles, thin with fear. Subject. Stabilizing. I bark a laugh that sparks. The overhead sensor stutters, red to orange to red again. I haven't stabilized a day in my life. I have paused. I have obeyed. I have performed calm the way animals at the training camp performed tricks, for the promise of not being hurt. Steam wraps my face like a wet hand. The door bolt thunks. They usually come with masks, suits, the kind with an insulating hood and a filtered voice that makes everyone sound like a tired god. Not today. The door yawns and a man steps through. No mask, no hood, no combat stance, just a rolled sleeve, a steady gait, and a lemon cupped in one hand like a small sun. "Hi, Mars." He sets the lemon on the floor, just inside the bright yellow line that tells him where he should be afraid to cross. "I'm Dorian." Fool, I think, and also interesting. Is that a fruit or a peace offering? My voice comes out smoke rough. The room loves that. The sensor flickers brighter. "Both," he says. "And a tool." He nudges the lemon carefully with the toe of his shoe, the way you'd nudge a sleeping cat. Smoke loves acid. I squint at him through the steam. He's taller than the guards, but not built like one. No bulk, no twitchy fingers near a sidearm. Warm brown eyes, the kind that try to hold ground without planting flags in your throat. The rolled sleeves, though, that detail lands like an insult in something else, trust or calculation. Exposed skin means he's either confident or suicidal. "Who sent you?" I ask. "Dr. Singh," he says. "The head of the unit." He tilts his head, not stepping closer, not stepping back. "I'm here to make this easier." I don't do easy. I lean into the words because leaning into heat is how you make it obey. The cuffs hiss softly. Steam turns to breath in my lungs. Exhale, the sensor blinks orange. Inhale, red again. "And your scent is wrong for this room." His mouth twitches. He heard Omega. He heard me say scent, and he didn't trip. He just nods, eyes flicking to the sprinkler head above me. "Clean linen and crushed lemon leaf," he says, like he's reading a bottle label. I tried to keep it simple. I should hate that. I hate the categories, their neat little boxes, their A's and O's and betas like a corporate org chart for hormones. But the citrus small knives through the steam, quick and bright, it thins the heaviness crowding my throat. Memory flares, involuntary and fast. Aunt Lale's kitchen, a bowl of lemon halves. Her thumb rubbing the rind under my nose. Hold, count the ash, Habibi. I shove the memory back into its drawer. What kind of therapist brings citrus to a wildfire? I ask. The kind who knows smoke loves acid. He smiles, but it's not the kind that asks for anything. It's a smile like a hand resting palm up on a table. You can take it, you can ignore it. Also, I didn't bring the usual binder of worksheets. I figured, He gestures at the sprinkler rain. It might get pulpy. Through the slit of glass, I can feel the watchers pressing their faces to the fog. I can taste their nerves. Ozone bright, copper sour. They want a scene. They always want a scene. Boys like me were put on stages at the camp and asked to bow after not burning what they loved. "You shouldn't be here without a mask," I say, testing him the way flames test a wick. "Or gloves." "I brought gloves," Dorian says calmly. "I left them in the hall." I snort. To make a point? To make it honest? He squats, not crossing the line, forearms balanced on his knees like he has all the time in the world. The lemon glows between us in the sterile light. "I won't ask you to do anything with your fire, not today. I'm just going to breathe with you. And we're going to see which part hates that." "I know which part," I say. "It's all of them. Fair." He checks his watch without looking away from me. "Can we try something completely non-heroic?" Doubtful. Humor me, he says, and the way he says it makes the word humor less like a plea and more like a tiny wedge he's respectful about using. On your next exhale, don't try to calm down, just count. One number. Pick it. 0, I say, because I'm petty. Start at 0, he agrees, unbothered. He inhales. I can see it. Belly first, then ribs. Not the chest-choking kind of breath the trainers insisted on. He lets it go slow. Ready? Ready is a stupid word. Ready implies consent. Ready is the last thing I am. But I say 0 on the exhale, and it slips out of me looser than I want, like a knot giving way, because the rope is tired of being clever. The sensor nudges from red to orange. The sprinkler's scream dims in my head, or maybe my head stops leaning into it, I can't tell. Dorian nods, as if the steam itself just shook his hand. He inhales again, steady. I don't match him. That's important. That I don't. I time my breath sideways to his, like refusing to dance, but still staying on the floor. 0, I say again, quieter, and the cuffs don't hum as hard. The observation slit clicks open further. Someone out there whispers, "Is he?" Another voice shushes. My heat twitches at the sound, a reflex like a dog's ear. Dorian notices the twitch. He doesn't reference it. He looks at the lemon, and then at me. "Do you like props, Mars?" He asks conversationally. I like knives. "We're out," he says with the mildness of a restaurant server apologizing for being out of truffle oil. "How about we pretend the lemon is a knife, not to cut you, to cut the room?" I stare at him. "Is that line in your little therapist handbook?" He pats his shirt pocket and pulls out a tiny notebook with a worn cloth cover. On the front, in neat block letters, someone has written, "Things that did not explode yet." Against every law of physics in this chamber, the corner of my mouth lifts. "You're kidding." "It helps," he says, "to keep track." He flips it open to a fresh page, clicks a pen. Day 1. The lemon. My laugh this time doesn't spark. Huh. He taps the lemon with the pen, then sets both objects down on his side of the line. The gesture careful, visible, a little ceremony for the gods of transparency. He takes another breath. And another. I keep not matching him. My own breath stubborns around his, tangling, refusing to be led anywhere it doesn't want to go. "Do you smell it?" he asks after a while. "The lemon?" I don't want to give him that. I count the ash in my chest like beads. "Barely." "I can cut it," he offers. "The rind. Not crossing the line." "Smoke loves acid," I echo dryly. "Smoke loves acid," he confirms. He pulls a small plastic knife from his other pocket because of course he has a plastic knife. Of course he is ready for ridiculous, kind interventions. He kneels and saws into the rind shallow, so the peel peels and the oil leaps into the air, bright and sharp. The scent knifes through the steam exactly like memory promised it would. The room changes. It doesn't get cooler. I do. Or rather, I stop climbing the ladder I built up the center of my spine. The metal taste in my mouth sours into something friendlier. The sensor hovers orange and seems content there. 0, I say without force, and my palms stop tingling. Aunt Lale's voice hasn't visited in years. I don't want it now, but the lemon breaks the seal on her words anyway, and they swim up under the sprinkler hiss. "In, little son. Hold. Count the ash. Out. Send it somewhere that deserves warmth." "Why are you really here?" I ask. "Because I need to hate him if this is a trick." "Because they made you perform a fire drill," Dorian says. And there it is, the flint under the calm. Because I read the incident report, and I don't believe in tests that manufacture the thing they claim to measure. Because Dr. Singh thinks if we can keep you out of black site transfer for a week, we can. Get you reassessed by someone who doesn't think uncontrollable is a permanent adjective. I blink. The cuffs stop humming completely. Water drums. Steam. Drifts. In the observation slit, someone shifts their weight. Squeaks the rubber of a shoe against a floor. "And because," he adds, softer, "you look like someone who has been asked to be safe for everyone except yourself." I hate that line. I hate it because it lands. I want him to be a manipulator with a nice jawline and a tidy vocabulary. I want to be right about his wrongness. I want to burn the lemon to black sugar and laugh at the mess. Instead, I breathe. I don't match him. I also don't not match him. We hang there in steam like two notes that happen to sound good together without meaning to. You shouldn't leave the gloves in the hall, I say eventually, because if I give him a kindness, I have to put teeth on it. You'll get burned. I might, Dorian says. He glances at his bare hands and flexes them once, as if reminding his fingers they exist for reasons other than clenching. But I won't ask you to do something I can't stand next to. That's a terrible policy. It's my favorite one. Another laugh escapes me, unwanted and quick. The cuffs do not hum. The sensor edges toward a steady amber I didn't know existed on its color wheel. The sprinkler noise recedes. Maybe they're dialing it down. Maybe I'm less porous to it. The room feels less like an enemy, and more like a thing that can be left someday. Not now. Not soon. Someday. Okay, I say. And the word is soft enough to be a betrayal if I let it. What now, Dorian? Now I leave, he says, surprising me. We don't push on day one. We don't make progress a god we have to sacrifice to. He stands in one fluid motion, knees cracking just enough to be human. He taps the notebook, writes something, tucks it away. You did that yourself, by the way. The part where it didn't escalate. I was over here having a citrus moment. You brought a fruit to a wildfire, I say. Your god is ridiculous. He's delicious, Dorian says solemnly. I recommend the tart. I roll my eyes. You're not allowed to weaponize bakery against me. Noted. He takes one step backward, then another, leaving the lemon with its cut peel shining. He doesn't turn his back until the door is half closed. He doesn't make eye contact with the slit where people spy. He looks only at me. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time. I want to say don't. I want to say do. I want to say bring a knife that isn't plastic, bring a plan that isn't kind, bring a way out that doesn't involve me performing obedience in a lab coat's favorite theater. What I say is nothing. The door shuts. The bolt slides home. The sprinkler shudders and then falls silent, leaving the room loud with the absence of water. Steam drops from a cloud to a fog to thin ribbons of breath. I look at the lemon. The first time I realized I could control the flame, I was 12. And I kept a secret. I didn't want to. I understood too well what control bought me. Praise, expectations, stakes sharpened into leashes. If I burned, they win. If I controlled, they owned the trick. So I stopped wanting either outcome. Wanting is how they get in. 0, I murmur, tasting the word on the last of the steam. The air in my lungs shifts from iron to something almost sweet. The cuffs lie cold and quiet against my wrists. The sensor nicks its way down to a plain, boring green I've never seen it show on my account. No performance, no audience. Just me and a lemon and a room that, for the first time since they locked me here, doesn't feel like it wants to eat my voice. My palms still hold a ghost of heat. I can feel the pressure valves open in my fingers and close again, like a held-back wave declining to break. I let the warmth pool and then drain. I don't force it. I don't force anything. The last of the steam threads away. The flame that rose to meet the alarm, my stubborn, feral friend, settles without being chased. It doesn't go out because I crushed it. It goes out because I didn't need it to keep me company. The room smells like metal and disinfectant, and faint, defiant, citrus. Smoke loves acid. Apparently, so do I. I close my eyes and listen to the quiet. Somewhere behind the glass, the watchers murmur, confused. On the other side of the door, footsteps soften. In my chest, something unclenches and takes up less space. I open my eyes. The lemon is still there, bright as a dare. Fine, I tell it. And for the first time today, my voice doesn't scrape. You can stay. The flame doesn't argue. It simply isn't needed. And so, like any creature that is finally unwatched, it curls up inside the warmth I own and sleeps. The lemon is still on the table when he comes back. It's smaller now. The cut edge browns slightly where the air got to it overnight. The scent still hangs. Faint, acidic, defiant. I didn't throw it out. That feels like a confession. Dorian steps in with no guards, no gloves again, carrying a tablet under one arm and a thermos that hisses when he cracks the lid. Coffee. The smell makes the sterile room twitch toward human. Morning, Mars. Define morning. It's 11. So, no. He smiles, setting the thermos on the table between us. Fair. I'm calling today session 0. Not therapy, not evaluation. Just breathing practice. Breathing practice, I echo, leaning back in the fireproof chair. Is that what they tell people who might combust? Only the handsome ones. He says it lightly, like he's tossing me a spark to see if I'll catch it. I don't. But it lands anyway. Low in my chest where laughter lives and rarely visits. He gestures to the room. Before we start, your choice. You can sit or stand, door open or closed, I'll match you. I stare at the door. It's heavy, reinforced glass with that ugly metal seam down the middle, like a scar. Choices in this place usually come with barcodes. Why does it matter? Because you decide the space, he says. Not me. That's the whole experiment. I laugh, sharp. You think choice equals freedom? I think choice equals practice. He waits. And practice can grow into freedom. If no one's grading you, that earns him a look. And you're not grading me? Not today. I decide to stand, mostly to contradict whatever expectation he had. He props himself against the table edge, easy posture, like we're two coworkers ignoring a fire drill. He taps his tablet awake and swipes something. No notes, he mutters, then sets it aside. Guess we're doing this analog? I arch a brow. Analog therapy. Revolutionary. He grins. Cutting-edge retro. My specialty. Something inside me stirs. Amusement or irritation, the lines blurry. He folds his arms, mirroring my stance. So Mars, you already breathe. Congratulations. But we're going to practice noticing how you breathe when someone's not ordering you to. You mean now. Exactly. Silence settles. The hum of the cooling vents fills the space between our heartbeats. I become aware of the way I breathe. Too shallow, too defensive. The air feels like gravel on the way in. He doesn't correct me. He just breathes louder, deliberate but not exaggerated. Something clicks in the back of my head. He's matching the rhythm from yesterday. Stop that, I mutter. What? The echoing thing. It's manipulative. Probably, he says. But it works both ways. You could echo me instead. Power's symmetrical that way. Cute theory. Terrible in practice, he admits. I can't help it. A huff escapes, halfway to a laugh. You keep saying things like you want me to argue with you. I do. He says it so easily that it disarms me. People here don't invite argument, they punish it. I study him, searching for the catch. There isn't one, just a man, open posture, steady breath, holding a boundary but not building a wall. The door behind him creaks open. A head pops in, a girl, barely 20, bright-eyed, holding a clipboard and a bottle of water. Dr. Vale, she says. Sorry. The monitors were glitching. Oh, hey, hi. She's looking at me like I'm a zoo exhibit. Then she trips, the clipboard tilts, and a notebook tumbles out, landing face up. The cover reads, Things that did not explode yet, in the same handwriting as Dorian's yesterday. The sound I make isn't quite a laugh, but close. The girl scrambles to grab it. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Dorian waves her off. Hana, right? You're fine. This is Mars. She gives me a small, nervous smile. I, brought the backup sensors. The ones that don't freak out over humidity. Good. We'll need those, Dorian says. Could you set them by the door? She does, then slips out, cheeks red. When the door closes, I tilt my head. Your intern needs coordination lessons. She has courage, he says. Not many would walk in here without full gear. Courage or stupidity. Thin line. Like most useful things. I blink, almost impressed. Do you practice these lines in a mirror? He pretends to think. Only the good ones. Then this one was spontaneous. He laughs. Quietly. Caught me. The air shifts. It feels less like surveillance, more like weather. For a second, I forget there's glass behind me and guards beyond it. He looks at me the way people look at storms, respectfully, not fearfully. You did well yesterday. I narrow my eyes. Don't analyze me. Not analyzing. Observing. Same thing. Observation doesn't assign value. It just notices. The phrasing is maddeningly gentle. He says it like a fact, not a strategy. I exhale hard. So, what do you notice now? He meets my gaze. That you're still here. That's profound. It's true. And damn it, that lands. Silence again. Except this one isn't sharp. It's the kind that hums like cooling embers. He reaches for the thermos, unscrews the lid, pours coffee into the cup, and sets it near me. Smell. Don't drink. I raise an eyebrow. Poisoned. Over-roasted. Worse. I lean closer despite myself. The scent is bitter, grounding, real. Smoke and acid, he says softly. Balance each other. I straighten. You have a theme. Lemons and coffee, he says. Not bad for day 2. Session 0, I correct. He smiles. Exactly. When he leaves, he doesn't take the coffee or the lemon. Both sit there, stubborn little suns against the sterile white. I tell myself I'll throw them away when the door shuts. I don't. The citrus smell lingers longer than I'd like to admit, and for the first time the silence that follows isn't hostile. It's thinking. The alarms begin like laughter that's forgotten the joke. A shrill, mechanical chorus slices through my half-sleep. Red strobes bloom across the ceiling, and for a heartbeat I think, again, I haven't done anything. I haven't felt anything. But the heat answers before my mind catches up. It rises from under my skin, instinctual, defensive, like claws. The cuffs start to hum. A voice through the speaker, Containment C, initiate safety protocol. Evacuate personnel. Evacuate. The word scratches something old in me. It means experiment. It means test. The vents snap open, flooding the chamber with cold vapor that smells of chlorine and betrayal. Not again, I mutter, forcing air out through my teeth. I can almost hear Aunt Lala whispering, in hold, count the ash. But the count won't come. Then the door slams open. Dorian bursts in, hair damp from a shower, shirt half tucked, no mask, no gloves, no damn sense. Mars! Get out, I bark. They're running a drill. He glances up at the flashing lights. You mean a trap? Same thing. He steps over the yellow line, ignoring the static shock that spits at his boots. You're overheating. Look at me. I said, look at me. His voice doesn't shout. It lands low, weighted like an anchor in a storm. I look. His pupils are wide, catching the strobe light. In. Hold. Count. They turned off the limiters, I hiss. It's not safe. I know. He draws a breath. Exaggerated. Slow. In. Hold. Count. I try. The cuffs spark. The wall panels vibrate. A hairline crack spiders through the reinforced glass above us, light bending at the edges like it wants to escape too. Dorian. Stay with me. His voice cuts through the metal shriek. It's just us. The word us shouldn't matter. It does. But the room doesn't care. The floor heats. Vapor curls into flame at my feet. It's beautiful, in a ruinous way. Fire has always loved me more than people do. Outside, shapes scatter. Guards, interns, the usual cowards. A woman's voice. Doctor. Sings. Shouts orders through the intercom. Override containment. Now. No, Dorian snaps. Loud enough for them to hear. You trigger that flood system, and you'll scald him alive. I stare. He's angry. Not at me, at them. For one heartbeat too long, I lose the rhythm. The fire sees that gap and takes it, lunging for the ceiling. A whip of gold and white. Sensors melt. The siren stutters, choking on static. Breathe, Dorian says again, quieter now. You're allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to let them script it. It hits like a slap. The absurdity, the impossible calm of him. I don't want control. I shout. That's what they taught me. Control means obey. He nods once, eyes steady. Then don't control. Just choose. The word hooks something in me. Choice, not performance, not training. A decision. I close my eyes. In, hold, count. 1. Out. The flames falter, stuttering like a heartbeat reconsidering its next move. I feel them hesitate, waiting for my permission to exist. Good, Dorian murmurs. Now give it somewhere to go. I picture the vent, the ceiling, the cold air waiting to swallow the heat. I release. The fire climbs once more, not as rage but as relief, thinning into smoke, then steam, then nothing. The sirens die. The lights dim. The only sound left is dripping water and the sharp, wet rhythm of my breath. Dorian's closer than before. Close enough that the edges of his hair are singed. His left forearm, bare, of course, blisters faintly where the heat kissed him. You're burned, I say stupidly. Occupational hazard. He exhales, runs his good hand through his hair. You okay? I laugh. A brittle sound. You're the one smoking. Yeah, but I look great doing it. It's ridiculous, and it works. The laugh that bursts from me this time is real, harsh, human. Behind the door, I hear the security captain, Cade, snarling into his radio. He's unstable. Lock him down. Dorian rounds on the glass. He stabilized the room. Do you see any fire left? Dr. Singh's voice, tight. We needed data, Dorian. You know the board. You used him, he snaps. To prove your containment upgrades worked. A pause. That's not fair. It's accurate, he says, low but lethal. Next time you want to test your toys, set yourself on fire. He turns back to me, breath still heavy. The anger is still there, bright and righteous, but it isn't fear. I meet his gaze. You're going to get yourself fired. Wouldn't be the worst thing today. You didn't even use gloves. He looks down at his hand, flexes the fingers. The skin's reddened, already blistering. They get in the way. I shake my head. You're an idiot. Probably. He half smiles, shoulders sagging. But you're idiot, at least for now. It's a stupid, dangerous sentence. And maybe the most honest thing anyone's ever said to me. I want to say something sharp, to reclaim ground, but all that comes out is a quiet, don't do that again. What, stand in the fire? Yeah. He nods. I'll try. But I make no promises. Outside, the sprinklers drip like rain finding rhythm. Inside, the air cools, carrying the faint scent of lemon oil he must have used on his hands that morning. It cuts through the smoke, bright, clean, alive. Smoke loves acid. And apparently I'm starting to love fools. They moved me to a smaller room after the fire drill. Dr. Singh called it a controlled environment. I called it a glass coffin with Wi-Fi. At least they let me keep the lemon. The skin has dried into a wrinkled yellow curl, but the smell still cuts through the metallic air. I turn it in my hand like a worry stone, thinking about Dorian's burned wrist and the way he said choose, like the word itself could rewrite the circuitry of my bones. The next day, he walks in with a bandage and a guilty expression that doesn't belong on a man who yells at his boss. How's the arm? I ask. Reminds me I'm alive, he says. Which is not the comforting line you think it is. I smirk. You could try aloe. He smiles back. You could try trusting me. Too expensive. He sighs, sets his tablet on the counter, and pulls out a small, unmarked envelope. Inside, folded carefully, is a scrap of paper covered in looping handwriting. It was in your intake file, he says. Found between medical reports. You recognize it? I do. Even before I see the words. Inhale peace. Exhale ash. My throat tightens. She used to say it before the heat tests. Your aunt? Lale. I nod. She thought if I could name what I released, it wouldn't own me. Dorian studies the note, then hands it to me. You want to try it again? You want to run another experiment? Not that kind, he says. The kind where you decide what happens. The lab smells of antiseptic and lemon zest. Dorian has a small diffuser running near the vent, vapor curling like soft ghosts. Why lemon? I ask. Because it worked before, he says. And because smoke loves acid. I roll my eyes. You're making that a brand, aren't you? Thinking about t-shirts. I shake my head, but my mouth curves anyway. You're insufferable. Consistent, he corrects. He moves around the table, checking the temperature sensors that line the floor. No guards this time, no audience. Just him and me, and the low hum of machines that don't yet know which one of us is the dangerous one. All right, he says, adjusting a dial. Whenever you're ready. No triggers, no commands, just you. I stare at my hands. The cuffs are gone today. I should feel free. Instead, I feel exposed. Like freedom's a test I'll fail in front of the only person who doesn't want to watch me burn. Inhale peace, I mutter. The air tastes like citrus and metal. Exhale. The heat comes too fast. It always does. It surges like memory, not physics. Flashes of the training room. The crack of a baton against my wrist. The instructors shouting, control it. Control it. Until all I could do was freeze and pretend they were right. Flames crawl up my forearms, curling around the edges of my sleeves. The room brightens to white. Hey, Dorian says quietly. You're not there. You're here. Look at me. I do. And he's not afraid, not even cautious. He's watching me like he's reading a language he almost understands. Say it, he murmurs. Inhale peace. I breathe. Good. Now what do you want the fire to do? The question throws me. No one's ever asked that. Not what should it do, not what's safe, but what do I want? I want it to stop acting like it knows better, I say. Then tell it. I exhale. The heat shivers, trembles, then folds back into my palms, settling like warm air before dawn. The lights flicker, but the alarms don't trigger. My skin glows faintly, golden instead of burning red. The room is quiet. I look at him. He's smiling, soft, proud, and entirely too pleased with himself. Congratulations, he says. You didn't set your psychologist on fire. That's measurable progress. I snort. That was your metric? Survival usually makes the top 3. The citrus in the air fades into something calmer, like the edge of a storm finally remembering it doesn't have to rage. Afterward, he sits at the desk typing his report. His fingers hover over the submit key longer than usual. You're not going to send it, are you? I ask. He doesn't look up. If I do, Singh will schedule a public demo, cameras, committee. The whole circus. And if you don't? I get reprimanded. He glances at me then, eyes steady. Worth it. I tilt my head. You're risking your job for paperwork. For people. He corrects. The paperwork just tries to catch up. He closes the file without saving and leans back. The lemon diffuser hums beside us, faint and persistent. You realize this means I technically failed the assignment, he says. I grin. I could still burn your desk. That might count as participation. He chuckles. Let's not test HR's tolerance for irony. Deal. For a long time, neither of us speaks. The room feels different now, not because it's cooler, but because it doesn't feel like a cage. I stare at my palms. They're steady. The faint glow under the skin pulses with my heartbeat. Harmless. Alive. The first time. I don't want to hide it. When Dorian finally leaves, he pauses at the door. You kept the lemon, he says. Yeah. Any reason? It smells like a decision. He smiles at that. One of those rare, quiet smiles that settle instead of shining. Keep making them, he says, and disappears down the hall. The door hisses shut. I roll the dried lemon slice between my fingers and whisper, half to the air, half to the ghost of my aunt. Inhale peace, exhale ash. The room breathes with me. And for once, the fire listens. The day of the hearing smells like disinfectant and theater. They've dressed the observation hall to look humane pale wood panels. Glass partitions, comfortable chairs for the ethics committee. Nothing humane ever happens in rooms with microphones. Dr. Singh stands near the center podium, tablet clasped like a shield. Dorian sits 3 rows back, officially present as witness. Unofficially, the only person here who still looks at me like I'm human. Cade is in uniform, gleaming and smug. He leans against the wall with that predator's ease, the kind that says I've already won. Subject Mars, Singh begins, voice steady but pale around the edges. This review will determine your suitability for community transfer. Do you understand the parameters? I understand the cage comes with better wallpaper, I say. She flinches. The audience, scientists, lawyers, the usual vultures, pretend to take notes. Cade steps forward. Before we begin the demonstration, he says, I've prepared visual context for the board. Something in Dorian's jaw tightens. That wasn't cleared. Cade smiles. Transparency's part of our mission. He taps a control on his wristband. The lights dim. The projector hums. Then the screen comes alive. Grainy footage. A boy, me, smaller, thinner, bones sharp as wires, stands in a metal room, surrounded by men in lab coats. The voice of one trainer cuts through static. Control it, or it controls you. The boy screams. The flames rise. The others don't flinch. The room around me tilts. For a second, I'm back there. Heat in my teeth. Cuffs biting into bone. That taste of copper and ash. Turn it off, Dorian says, low but sharp. Cade doesn't. The board deserves to see the risks we manage, he says, eyes on me. How easily the word breaks never leaves his mouth, because the temperature spikes before he can finish. The panel lights flash orange, then red. The metal frame of the projector creaks as the heat climbs up its wiring, curling through circuits like a vein of magma. Someone shouts. Singh tries to override the control panel. Dorian doesn't move. He meets my gaze across the chaos. No panic, just steady, quiet eyes that say you can choose. My pulse is a drumbeat. The fire gathers in my throat, wanting direction. For the first time, I don't think about suppressing it. I think about what deserves to burn. Not people, not walls. The lie. I raise a hand, palm open. The flame follows. The projector bursts, a bloom of gold swallowing the cruel light. The screen melts into itself, images liquefying into ribbons of smoke. The heat surges, then dies, obedient as breath. Silence. The smoke curls upward, soft and gray, not rage but release. I lower my hand. My knees tremble, but I stay upright. When I speak, my voice is quiet enough to make them all lean in. I'm not your weapon. The words fall like stones into a frozen pond. No one moves. The only sound is the faint hiss of cooling metal. Dr. Singh's tablet slips in her grip. Cade stares, mouth tight, the edge of his composure blistering under the weight of a truth he can't file a report about. Dorian stands, slowly. No applause, no grand gesture, just standing, as if to say I saw you. I look at him, and something inside me steadies. The heat fades, leaving warmth instead of ash. Dr. Singh finally exhales. Security. Stand down, she orders, her voice trembling. No restraints. Cade glares at her. He just destroyed classified. He chose not to destroy you, she snaps, louder than I've ever heard her. That's the point, the board murmurs. Someone types frantic notes. Dorian walks to me, ignoring protocol. He doesn't touch me. He just stands close enough that I can feel the calm radiate off him like sunlight through smoke. He leans in, voice low. You did that yourself. I nod. You taught me how. He shakes his head. You already knew. You just stopped wanting to prove it. I glance at the burnt projector, the curling wires, the faint lemon scent that still lingers on his sleeve. The air feels different now, lighter, unarmed. I turn back to the board. If you still need proof I'm not dangerous, I say, you weren't paying attention. No one argues. Later, as the hall empties, Singh approaches. Her voice is softer. You understand this means transfer approval, conditional, limited monitoring. I shrug. Freedom with footnotes. I'll take it. She looks almost proud, I underestimated you, Mars. I grin. Everyone does. Keeps things interesting. She leaves before I can see if she's smiling. Dorian lingers, leaning against the railing. How do you feel? Like smoke, I say. Not gone. Just changing shape. He tilts his head. I'll take that as a win. I look at his bandaged hand. You're still an idiot. Consistent, he says. The same word he used in the lab. And I laugh. A real one this time. Loud enough that it startles the interns packing up the chairs. For once, I don't apologize for the noise. Because it isn't fire. It's proof I'm still here. And this time I'm the one holding the match. Freedom doesn't have a sound. It's the silence that follows when the locks open and no one yells for you to stop. The review ended hours ago. The committee signed the papers, stamped the clauses, whispered about unprecedented stability. My escort walked me to the gate, handed me a folded sheet that says conditional release in letters too large to mean comfort. The world outside the facility smells of wet pavement, and something trying to remember spring. Clouds sag heavy with promised rain. Dorian waits by the exit. No ID badge, no tablet. Just a man standing in the gray, sleeves rolled, the bandage gone from his hand. You shouldn't be here, I say. He shrugs. Technically, I'm not. I resigned this morning. I blink. That's impressive levels of poor judgment. He smiles, small and tired. Occupational hazard. For a second, neither of us moves. I expect the old twitch to come, the one that sets my heat rising whenever someone stands too close, but it doesn't. The air between us feels different now. Softer. He nods toward the open street. You're free, Mars. The words land heavier than they should. I shove my hands into my jacket pockets to hide the tremor. I don't know what to do with that. Try coffee, he says, and maybe a lemon tart. I laugh. You and your citrus evangelism. Hey. It worked. He steps aside, letting me choose the direction. It's such a simple gesture, no command, no leash, that it almost undoes me. We end up walking. Not far. Just enough for the world to stop feeling like an illusion. The sky cracks open above the rooftops, and the first rain in weeks begins to fall, slow, uncertain drops that hiss against the warm concrete. By the time we reach the top of the nearest building, the city below blurs into silver. The rooftop is slick. The air sharp with petrichor. Dorian leans on the railing, watching the storm. They say the first rain after a heat wave is cleansing, he murmurs. I tilt my head back, let it soak my hair. Or inconvenient. Depends who you ask. A gust of wind cuts through, cold and sudden. He rubs his hands together, trying for warmth. Guess I should have brought gloves. I roll my eyes, reach out without thinking, and take his hand. His skin is cool, rain slick. Mine hums, faintly gold under the surface. The warmth that flows out of me isn't flame. It's life finally learning how to stay. He startles at first, then exhales, shoulders loosening. That's nice. Temperature regulation, I say dryly. New trick. He glances at our joined hands, then at me. Now that, he says, smiling, is control. I huff a laugh. Don't get used to it. Too late. We stand there, rain turning to mist, the city flickering beneath us like a sleeping furnace. For the first time in years, the sound of water doesn't make me flinch. It just exists, falling, cooling, forgiving. Dorian squeezes my hand once, quiet and sure. So what now? I think about the papers in my pocket, the world waiting beyond the gates, the endless list of things I'm supposed to prove. Then I look at him, this idiot who walked into fire without gloves and called it empathy. I figure it out, I say, without letting them write the script. He nods. Good plan. We fall into silence again. Not the heavy kind, but the kind that feels like breathing after holding it too long. The rain eases. The clouds thin. The city smells clean for once. I glance at our hands. His, steady, mine, glowing faintly against the fading gray. And I finally understand what all the experiments, the drills, the fear never taught me. I never needed a reason to burn. I just needed someone who wouldn't run.